I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Trustee Bellinger? Here. Trustee Bogowski? Here. Holly is absent. Guerrero is absent. Trustee Bison?
Here.
Trustee Foley?
Here.
President Prydmore?
Here.
Treasurer Stein? Here. And Clerk Joseph is
Approval of agenda. I'd like to add one item under communications, item D, fire committee report.
so moved.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda, approval of the minutes. Correction, public comment on the agenda. I'm medicated right now. Public comment on the agenda. Any public comment? Okay. Now, let's go to the approval of the minutes. Meeting July 14, 2022.
So moved.
Support. I wasn't here, but I'll support it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda.
Make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Payment of the bills, treasurer's report.
Payroll for the month totaled $104,499.98. Bills to be paid for August totaled $228,161.14 for a total of $331,661.12. The village assets total $6,394,839.53.
Make a motion that we approve the payment of bills in the total amount of $331,661.12.
Support.
Roll call.
Trustee Bison?
Yes.
Trustee Bogowski? Yes. Trustee Bellinger?
Yes.
Trustee Foley?
Yes.
President Prydmore?
Yes.
I'll move to receive and file the treasurer's report as presented. Earlier, do that.
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Communications committee reports. What's that?
Clerk agenda items for the September meeting are due by September 2nd.
And I promise I'll try to stick to that. Planning commission report, Trustee Bogowski.
I was not at the last planning meeting. Just looking at the minutes, I see they set a couple of public hearings.
Regards to
Regarding them.
The master plan, the final comments on the master plan. There's a lot split. There's the Amherst site plan
And the Northwick site plan.
and the Northwick site plan, and a daycare expansion. All public hearings that are at before the next planning meeting.
okay, great. Can you shoot me, can somebody there shoot me a list of dates?
Yeah. It's at the next planning meeting, which is the 6th.
Yep.
It's
The public hearings up for everything's going to be the
same time.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, the 2022-2023 smart contract.
Didn't we put the committee? We had it.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to make Mike stay for the whole meeting. You guys just blew there. I thought, come on, the doctor.
Hold on, you missed the fire department.
Mike, sit down. Again, folks, I am heavily.
And that's my presentation.
I'm going to keep you here all night. Go ahead on the fire committee.
So we met just prior to the council meeting today. Fire department was just proposing for one of our upcoming new business items, talking about the truck tires for one of their tires, discussed an upcoming visit from Myosha, a request from, I believe, the county to maintain our tornado sirens, so we're looking into some compliance for that. We have 5 to 7 people joining the new EMS class, which is exciting. They've been doing a lot of recruiting. They're doing some repairs to a crushed exhaust pipe in the building. that's going to be coming down the pipeline in the next couple of months here, and discuss some upcoming capital outlay, basically not improvements, for firefighting foam and fire suits that are going to be expiring in the next 2 years. And Dan discussed some conferences that they are planning to attend for education for our fire department, and some upgrades and maintenance to the current communication systems. And then they're also going to be going into the schools and assisting with the active shooter training in the near future.
And we'll also be discussing with council about pay raises for our paid alcohol firefighters. They are woefully underpaid in comparison with other communities. And also we'll be talking about the fire chief's salary. That will be on our September agenda. And of course, I saw Parks and Rec. Trustee Guerrero is not here, that's why I skipped, so I can have new businesses for review of the March 31st, 2022 financials.
Good evening. Can you hear me all right? Well, thank you for having me here. Many of you are familiar faces. My name is Mike Roca with Yo-Yo CPAs. I'm a senior manager. I've been working on this audit for a number of years now, and I'm here to present the results of the March 31st, 2022 audit. Flip to page 2 to start off with the audit opinion. Right to the bottom line of the audit, it was an unmodified opinion, which is what you're looking for with an audit, and it's the highest level of assurance that you can obtain from any accounting firm. It must be issued by a licensed CPA, and what that means is that the financial statements are materially correct in all respects. One thing that does not mean is that we went searching for fraud or that we're validating that there's no fraud. Whenever it is discovered, we will report it, of course, but I think there's a statistic out there that auditors may detect 5% of all fraud cases, whereas most often fraud is discovered by a whistleblower within an organization. Management's responsibility for the financial statements is to ensure they present fairly and materially correct financial statements, along with having a set of internal controls in place that would either prevent or detect errors in a timely manner. And that's what we look at as a part of our responsibility with the audit is, are the financial statement internal controls in place? Are the numbers materially stated, or are any adjustments required? So as I said, with that, an unmodified opinion was issued, and what that is it's like getting an A+ on your report card. Next, moving to page 3, it's just a pie chart of the general fund revenues. I want to point out a few things about the actual numbers in the statements and then focus on some additional communications. Please recall these numbers are as of March 31, 2022, so a lot of your data I'm sure has changed since then. One thing you may notice if you're looking at the general fund revenue distribution here, the state revenue sharing amount is up considerably compared to prior years. We'll see that in a trend line that spikes the revenues. That's because of the census adjustment in the revenue sharing amounts that came out during the year. $150,000 federal grant, that was a CDBG grant, and then property taxes were up just a bit due to the increase in taxable values. Everything else remained fairly consistent year over year. Page 4 is a similar pie chart representing general fund expenditures for fiscal year 2022. The public safety represents police expenses, and that is very consistent year over year. The actual general government costs are down just a bit, and that's as a result of fewer COVID supplies, although I'm seeing some new ones here. And then one of the other big things I'd like to point out is the transfer of $185,000 that was to the sewer fund, which I'll discuss in a little bit, and I have some good news with that. Page 5 presents a 5-year trend analysis of the general fund revenues and expenses together, and you can see every year they go up a little in general, but they kind of float around each other, which is what you would expect. This year, the revenues did climb quite a bit more than the expenses on account of that additional state revenue. Next, slide 6 is the water operations 5-year trend. It's down a bit this year as compared to the prior year as a result of additional tap-in fees that were recorded last year due to such a boom in housing, really. And the expenses remain fairly flat over the prior 2 years. And this shows me that currently the water rates are supporting the operations, but you can see they're narrowing back in on one another. Next is the sewer operations. Again, a 5-year trend. The sewer fund has had some struggles in the past, and it's really flattened out over the past 4 years, you can see, and a lot of that is the help of the general fund. That was that $185,000 transfer. I'm assuming that may be the last time this transfer happens, as we'll see coming up soon. Page 8 shows that the general fund balance went up a bit. Again, going back to that census increase, that's really the primary driver of that. Overall, the fund balance in the general fund is very healthy and easily meets the minimum policy that you guys have in place. The unrestricted net position in the water fund on page 9 has increased a bit as you saw revenues exceeding expenses. It is a healthy net position, shows that things are going well. And now on the next slide, I'm very happy to announce that the net position in the sewer fund is positive. This is the first time since I've done the village's audit that it's been in a positive situation. You can see going back to 18, and we've done the audit, I think, since 2014. It's been slowly climbing, and with a lot of help from the general fund, it appears to be on stable grounds. It really flipped about $400,000 this year, so it looks like perhaps the contributions from the general fund, I would suggest continuing to monitor that, but it may no longer be necessary to keep it going. I'm really happy about that. Next, I'll go over what our communication letter will have. A lot of it is boilerplate information, but I like to hit on the key points. One of them this year being a new standard that was adopted, and what this standard, it's GASB Statement 89. The crux of it is as you're doing construction projects in proprietary funds, so that would be your water and sewer funds, you are no longer required, in fact, you are not allowed to capitalize the interest costs anymore. So overall, it would be a minor effect, but that is something to be aware of. The significant estimates of the village in the financial statements are the useful lives of capital assets, and so that's how long you would depreciate those assets once purchased. And lastly, there's one internal control related matter that I'd like to report. It was material non-compliance in relation to the budget. So there were 2 significant budget overages, one in the local streets fund and one in the fire fund. And so one of them in the fire fund particularly was really due to an accounting entry, although no cash had actually been dispersed yet for the purchase of a new ambulance. It is the accounting rule that you must record the capital outlay and the sources so they net to nothing, and in the future the payments will actually be made. So there really is an accounting only entry. The other one I believe was due in the local streets fund was due to some of the accruals at the year end for maybe some construction invoices that came in. So one of the ways to avoid that in the future is to be mindful of, okay, what projects do we have going on, what's coming up, and during that last budget amendment, to think hard about those things as it's being amended. With that, I'm happy to take any questions, and I appreciate your time.
On the general fund, unassigned funds, do you have like a percent or where we're positioned?
Yes, I believe I do. One moment.
And that would be net of our rainy day fund and the American Rescue Plan. I think, is that all unassigned funds or is it in cash?
The ARPA funding would not be included in this as it's still unearned revenue.
It's unspent cash?
Right, correct.
Okay.
Let me just find this here, sorry. I notated it, I believe it's 64% of annual expenditures in unassigned fund balance. Yep. And so the minimum policy that you guys have put in place is 25 to 30%.
Okay. So we have some breathing room or something.
Absolutely. Yep.
On pages 9 and 10, where you talk about the water and sewer fund, the unrestricted net position, can you go into a little more detail on what it means for the unrestricted net position?
Absolutely. So with the unrestricted net position, with net position in particular, there will be 3 components to that typically that you'd see. So restricted, which would be funds set aside because you've got them particularly to pay debt often, net investment in capital assets, and then the remainder is unrestricted. So the unrestricted, if you will, is what's left over, kind of like the plug number. So you first calculate your net investment in capital assets. That's your total net book value of your capital assets less any related debt. Then you back out any of the restricted amounts, and that arrives at your unrestricted amount. That would be amounts that haven't been spoken for that you can use for future operations.
Similar question for slide 6 and 7 with water operations, revenue versus expenses, and sewer operations, revenue versus expenses. Does the expenses, does that also include our water and sewer bond expenses for each of those respective funds?
No, so that will not include the actual cash outlay to service the debt. It only includes operating expenses, depreciation, and that sort of thing. And that does include the transfer in from the general fund, though, in case of the sewer fund.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Everybody have a nice night.
You too. I'm kind of surprised with the spending we've been doing. We're still at healthy unassigned fund balance. We're doing well. Okay, now we're at the 2022-2023 smart contract. Mr. White? Uh-huh.
Do we have to receive the audit?
Oh, come on up. Do I have a motion to receive and file?
I have a motion to receive and file the audit report from you and you.
Support.
Probably moved and supported. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Mr. White?
Mrs. President,
Yes.
the audit says draft
It doesn't become final until we receive it.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. All right, we don't need to ignore these.
That's okay.
The smart contract. Yeah. The smart contract. Do you want to explain what that is?
Sure. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. It's that time of year again when the smart community and municipal credit contracts come before your community for consideration of expenditure for the use of public transportation. These dollars can only be used for public transportation purposes, so you're limited in areas that you can use them. Since I think it's 1999, we've been providing small bus service to the residents of the village of New Haven. Those initially started mostly as vehicles that transported people for various medical appointments because we found there was a need for people to get to dialysis and oncology and physical therapy, and they were actually calling for ambulances, and that didn't make much sense back in the day. So we got into business to help support those folks. It has morphed over the years and expanded to now include recreational trips and community trips and trips to the grocery store. One of the big areas of use we see these days are people actually using it to work, which is really something that we had never expected. But we learned that we have a number of members of our community that have various disabilities that prohibit them from driving a car, but it doesn't prohibit them from working at the local Home Depot, if you will. And so we're able to move some of those people to those kinds of locations. So the service continues to grow. We saw a little bit of dip in service during the smart pandemic, but we ended up turning most of the smart dollars that we got that year around into assisting with dispatch services and providing transportation to people to get vaccines in those years. So the service seems to be like all other forms of transportation, airlines and other trains and buses. It seems to be back on the increase. We've seen about a 60% increase overall for our system in just the past year in the number of people, again, riding the buses, and we will probably this year exceed pre-pandemic levels as far as the number of riders out there on the vehicles. So we're pretty pleased with the direction that everything is going at this point in time. We've also seen some fairly significant cost increases. Just to give you a rough idea, because it was staggering for me to look at, in 2020, pre-pandemic, when we were paying for fuel for those buses and doing about 28,000 runs a year, we were paying $33,600 for our fuel. This year we'll do just a little more than that, because we're seeing, and we will pay $102,000 for the fuel for the entire operation, not just Street Village, just in the difference in cost of diesel. So we are seeing some substantial increases. We have the same challenges in recruiting that you have in your own community with regards to service sector employees. And this year, our wages increased over the system by about $50,000 in order to keep our drivers employed. Otherwise, we're going to lose the other service industries. Last year, the New Haven community received $8,126 in what they call community credits and $4,560 in municipal credits. We use those dollars down at SMART, and they are able to use some of those dollars in a federal match. So we get about, for your $12,000, we get about another $6,000 back from them. So if the Village of New Haven was operating their own transit service and was eligible for these matches, they would get about $18,000 in total money to come back and provide that service here in the community. Not a lot of money for 5 days a week, 10 hours a day service, and half a day on Saturdays. This year, the contract that SMART has put before you has in it an amount of $8,390 in community credits and $5,709 in municipal credits, which increased us from $1,268 to $14,099. We are requesting that the community consider transferring those funds to the Richmond Lennox EMS to continue providing the small bus service for your community. And I do not know if there are any questions from the board.
Any questions?
How often is your shuttle service to DTW used? Do you see that being used frequently? Or?
We go down there usually at least twice a day and then come back at least twice a day because everybody take down needs to drive back eventually. We would like to further expand that, but frankly, we're kind of at our, if you will, budgetary cap when we look at the amount of dollars coming from that service. But literally 6 days a week, those vehicles are regularly going down there with residents from some of our communities. And I was at a community meeting the other night, and one of the trustees there mentioned, said, you know, the first time I used it, it was only myself and my husband, I think, on the bus. And she said, well, the last time you guys picked us up, you guys make 4 stops on the thing. And I said, yeah, that's the idea behind it, is that we can pick up more than one person going at the same time. So that's the kind of use we're starting to see with regards to that. That's just something that, like I said, that's been a real pleasure to be able to do, because it was really our ability to give something back to the community outside the seniors and disabled, who I think we were doing a really good job serving, but it was something to us to be able to say to the community that might not otherwise use public transportation, to say for those dollars that you spend on SMART out of your taxes, SMART is not free. You have tax to pay for it. That's something that we can at least give back. And so it's been really a pleasure to kind of be able to do that. The one thing that we're going to start, I don't want to take up too much of your meeting, but the one thing that we're going to begin, and we'll begin September 1st, which we're pretty excited about, is we're going to have, for the first time ever, same-day service. And that means you don't have to call in advance to get a ride somewhere. What we find is our buses fill up 2-3 days in advance, so people learn that they need to call us in advance. But every so often, somebody gets up in the morning to start, every so often somebody wakes up in the morning with, illness that they need to get their doctor for. And right now, frankly, those are the only people we've turned away. We have to tell them no because we just don't have a seat on the bus for them. Starting September 1st, we will have a bus operating the area, and there'll be information coming out probably here this week or for the very first part of next week to all the communities on it that will be kind of like your own local Uber, if you will. You'll be able to call for that service, and they will come and get you, within a reasonable time, maybe 30 minutes of the time to call is kind of what we set as the, as our goal for that operation. It's only going to be one initially. I think it's going to be like the airport. I think it's going to get used well, and I think it's going to take off. But if you will. So.
Yeah, I know every time I see somebody asking questions about shuttle service to DTW, I'm always telling them, hey, I mean, it's free and it's what we're already
I'll tell you, like you say, the fact that we're not even more overwhelmed by it surprises me because this is a service that will pick you up at your home, picks up all your bags, puts them on the bus for you, drives you down to the airport, drops you off at your terminal, rinse and repeat when you return, if you will. They come down there, we give you a number to call as soon as your flight lands. They're waiting for you when you come out, and it costs you your mill and tax dollars, but it costs you nothing out of pocket. And in the past, myself and others that have ridden included are taking their car down there, parking it wherever you like to park it for a week, and coming back with $100 bill, kind of thing for their parking for their vehicle. And this is something that you can get, literally for no more out of pocket costs just by giving our office a call.
What resolution number would this be?
The phone number? I'm sorry.
The resolution number.
2024-009.
Do I have a motion?
I will move to adopt resolution 2022-009, a resolution authorizing the use of 2023 smart municipal and community credits.
In the amount of?
In the amount of $5,709 for municipal credits and $8,390 in community credits.
Support.
Roll call.
Trustee Pauling?
Yes.
Trustee Meissen?
Yes.
Trustee Gronkowski?
Yes.
Trustee Bellinger?
Yes.
And President Price?
Yes.
If I can, real quick, I'm sorry. I just wanted to mention, always while I have the mic, I do like to mention the phone number for the New Haven area for services 586-749-7713. For those of you that had seen Fred Barbrett with me here for years, doing our stand-up routine this time of year, he retired just about 18 months ago, I think 12, 18 months ago. There is a replacement for him. She was unable to be here tonight, but I'm sure you'll get to meet her if you don't already know her. Her name is Mcinerney. Bonnie was the, executive assistant to the mayor in New Baltimore for a number of years when Mayor DeGray was there. The mayors changed that position when they come in and out. New Baltimore, got new mayors, so they got a new executive assistant, and Bonnie is now working down at Smart. So you will see her here in the future alongside.
Thank you. Educational training for council members. And we can expand this topic to travel also for our fire department. We have all been getting emails from the Michigan Municipal League, from SEMCOG, and they're offering conventions within the state of Michigan that are really some incredible networking and educational opportunities. Years ago, I got a scholarship to go to one of the M&L conventions in, I think it was Grayling, and it was a 2-day convention. They paid for food and the room, and I paid for the gas. But you learn so much. You see how other communities are doing it, and again, there's networking. And so in communications, one of the mayors in northern Michigan about how she's doing it. She's got a community our size, facing the same challenges. So what I'd like to do is get your permission to set up an educational travel policy for council, for our employees, clerical, because they do have conventions too, and for our fire department. The policy would include the IRS rate, I think it's 62 cents a gallon for gas mileage. It would include a per diem for food and lodging capped at $1,000 or whatever you decide is a good figure. And all attendance must be within the state of Michigan. Nobody can go to Hawaii. So with your permission, I'd like to set that up, if you agree. Yeah.
I'd like to ask if we could expand that to include committees, because Parks and Recreation would probably benefit a lot from the Michigan Festival and Events convention.
It's a good idea.
That was great networking, and they had a really good Parks and Rec involvement.
And planning.
Yeah.
That would be good for planning as well. So if it's all right, I'd like to move forward with drafting a policy for your review. I think we need to put something in place to get our people out there, get them educated, and to find out what other people are doing. So,
Are you including the cost of the convention itself, or?
Yes.
Well, okay.
yes.
That's awesome. It's actually the cost of things. That's why I haven't done some of the things I've been invited to go do.
Yeah, I know. It's amazing. But yeah, I think it's a great opportunity, and I think especially in these challenging times, we need to find out best practices from other communities and from the state as well. So I will be working on a draft, and I'll be throwing it in to make sure I'm not violating any rules. And I'll forward it to you guys, and it will time for review for this coming Wastewater Authority sent us an increase in, marginal increase in cost, and this is not including the Highland Park portion of the bill that they've been billing us for the past 10 years. We've got that eliminated going forward. But even without the Highland Park cost, the cost variance is $21,700 for the next fiscal year, which is a 5.5% increase. At some point, we will have to look at passing this increase along to the residents. But in this very unusual economic environment, I would like to ask council if we could just one more time absorb the cost, saying send an email to everybody saying net appropriation still increased the fund balance by $247,000. So yes, we can absorb this into our budget. Any questions or thoughts?
This is sort of related, but not, but at some point, now that we have our audit that has the final year of the sewer deficit elimination plan, to actually come together and talk about how we're going to set our rates and everything, because I think just by looking at it there, our water fund could absorb this easily. Sewer maybe not so much, but at some point in the near future to come together.
Yeah, I'd like Ways and Means to meet,
right.
Because our goal has always been to reduce the cost of living in New Haven. And if these new numbers give us any kind of a leeway, Sterling Heights just banged the drum about reducing the residents' water bills by $1. But it shows the community they're looking to reduce the cost. So at some point, I'd like to have Ways and Means when you guys get a chance to meet and look at that, and also another cost reduction proposal I might have, so that we can tighten up how we operate here and we can pass the savings on to the residents. So Ways and Means would think about giving me a data. I appreciate it. Any other questions about absorbing the cost of $21,700?
Motion for that?
Yes, it is.
Make a motion that we absorb the cost of the $21,700 due to the increase from GLWA.
Support.
Roll call.
Mr. Mason?
Yes.
Mr. Bukowski?
Yes.
Mr. Kohler?
Yes.
Mr. Bellinger?
Yes.
President Harden?
Yes. PBR maintenance agreement, Mr. Duke.
Hello. This agreement is for the PRV station that's located on 26 over here. It's a pressure reducing valve station that monitors the flows coming in from Detroit and going into the village. I want to set up a maintenance agreement with the company to come out yearly and check the valves, check all the ins and outs of electrical. We ran into a situation a month or so ago, and I had to monitor it 24 hours. I had to pretty much go to the station every hour and manually do it. And then the guy from Engineering Fluid, he was on the phone with me, telling me what to do. So we need to be proactive. The station is almost 10 years old now, and I've also found out that some of these valves, they tend to start wear and tear, because we do use it a lot, obviously, to fill the water tower and things of that sort with the growth. So I want to set up a maintenance agreement just like we have for our normal, our emergency generators and all that stuff, for the PRV station also.
Now, I asked if you reached out to other companies for this service.
I reached out to one other company, and I was by far not comfortable with, and like he was shaking when he was speaking. And we've been dealing with this company since day one, and they know us, we know them. It's not broke. I'm not looking to try to have somebody else's hands in, and we have a catastrophic, issue with then what. Because some of the guys, they say they didn't work on clay valves, for instance. He had certain valves, and if I touch it, so on and so forth, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, now you're talking about a service agreement. Are you talking about a multi-year service agreement?
It's just a yearly. It's a yearly, every year. Yeah, it's just a yearly, and then we'll come back next year.
Okay, and the cost for the yearly inspection is around $5,800?
Yes, ma'am.
Is
Well-
this a, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Is this a company that already does preventative maintenance for some of our equipment?
Yes. We called him when we had that issue, and he actually happened to be out in St. Clair Shores, and he made a point to come over and help us out. Some of our electrical failed. Obviously, Mcinerney's electric issues around here also. So he came out and, made sure he helped us. So he will make a point to help us out also. So we have a great working relationship, had it since it was built, and this company has always been there for us and been on there to this day.
So it'll come out once a year?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And it automatically renews?
Will we get notification of the cost goes up before it renews?
Yes, ma'am.
Where exactly is the PRV station at on 26?
It's at 26, it's right next to where the new, not Andy's Market, but where the building is, the path is going. Right there. Yeah. Just like, east of, is it? Yeah. It's just it's a little gray building. Yeah, it has all valves, pumps, transducers, the whole shebang. Yeah, it's a whole setup in there that, and he'll come through and go through everything. A to Z.
Is P&I this a major operation, a one-day, multi-day, or?
It could be multi-days. Usually he likes to at least go do 2 days, yeah.
This price includes one person for 2 days?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Yep.
And the funding?
Plus expenses?
Yeah, the funding for this would come out of?
This is no water. This is water.
Water, okay.
Yeah.
Anything else torn off the top of this that says East Point?
When we called the lady, she probably was making another agreement.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I kept seeing Indianapolis.
I'll have her,
Well, I think the company's based out of Indianapolis.
Yeah, they usually got a Centralia in Illinois, and then they branched out, they got a couple hubs.
Any other questions or concerns?
Just given that it's an automatic renewal, will they notify us every year that you're renewing? Do you know, did they
Yes,
send that
yes.
notification out? Okay.
Yeah.
And they'll tell us if there's an increase.
Yeah, I'll come back with that increase if it goes up or goes down, same thing.
Or you could word it not to exceed.
Well, this is the thing, if there's a pump going,
But this will just be for the inspection, right?
Yeah, this is a maintenance, so he's gonna go through
in addition to this.
Well, it's going to exceed that anyway, because it says plus expenses.
So if they do the inspection and they find
Yeah.
something they are
Exactly.
replace.
yeah. Because what happened with our 6-inch normally operates. It wasn't, the electrical was showing that it was open, but it was closed. So I had to go in there and manually open the 12-inch know, something better to do. And he said, we need to stay on top of it. They even got a new system that I'm gonna bring forward to you guys later date, that it's more automated, you know, we don't have to go off of these big cell towers, you know, and things like that. These antennas, now it's more automated, but that's at a later date. I'm working on that one right now. But yeah,
So right now, we're looking for a motion to approve the amount of $58.45 for the yearly inspection.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Meissen?
Yes.
Trustee Foley?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, trustee Gronkowski?
Yes.
Trustee Ballinger?
Yes.
And President Farrell.
Yes.
thank you.
Just wanted to give us an update on the Salt River Greenway. We did get $45,000 in a planning grant. We were one of 6 agencies SEMCOG awarded planning grants to this year. So this is going to be a lengthy process. It's not going to be overnight. So the map that I forwarded to all of you, of course, is just preliminary. They're going to be facing challenges on private property, acquiring leeways. So the map will undergo a lot of changes before we go forward. And I want to thank Trustee Bonkowski and Rob Melwood Planning for volunteering to be on the committee so that they can get the information and ask the smart questions. So moving forward on the project. So I just wanted to give you guys an update. And we're supposed to have a rollout, an official rollout of the projected greenway sometime I think at the end of this month or the beginning of next month. And you'll be invited, Rob will be invited as well. I learned some interesting facts, and I sent the information to you to all look at the Paint Creek Greenway. They found home values in that area went up on average 12 to 15%, and that includes manufactured housing. Their cost of their assessed value went up that much. So and plus it's another amenity for the area. They're trying to do connectivity on greenways throughout the state of Michigan. And once this is completed, the idea is that we will connect the Lake St. Clair to the McCormick Orchard Trail. So as we move forward, we'll keep you guys updated. And originally, we were estimated to have a $2,000 copay on planning services, but that's going to be even less. So just wanted to give you an update on what's going on. And this goes in with the land acquisition we'll be talking about under new business. So just wanted to give you an update. Ordinance Chapter 495, Water and Sewer, lawn watering. We've got a copy of the lawn watering regulations that was passed back in March 1st of 2011. And this puts into effect permanent restrictions on watering your lawn. Odd number addresses shall only water lawns Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday. The property with even number of addresses will only water lawns on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then it goes on with some other restrictions. All automatic lawn irrigation systems should be set to activate only between 12 a.m. and 5 a.m. These are basically unenforceable. I don't know of any other community that has these restrictions in there as a permanent feature. Most communities say we are now requesting water restriction, and they publish it during a time of drought or summer drought. It's up to the community to decide when to publish it. This is not enforceable. We don't have any mechanism to run up to people and say, here's your ticket. You did it on the wrong day. Especially with new builds, people spend thousands on sod. Apparently sod is no longer included in the purchase price of new homes. We're not going to tell them during a time of drought, no, you can't water it except every other day. They're going to lose money. So I would ask council that we rescind Chapter 495 of the Water and Sewer Lawn Watering Regulation, 495-35, and that we craft a resolution to say the village will determine when to enforce water restrictions during a time of drought or summer drought. So right now I'm just looking to get this lawn watering regulation off the books.
Do we need to rescind it necessarily, or could we just do an amendment in one swoop instead of rescind and then a new ordinance?
These ordinances were a lot of people passed them because there was a series of droughts
low water levels. The best way to do it is to repeal it and then either decide to make a new one or put in a resolution that in times of drought, the board has the right to address it and pass a particular emergency measure to protect the community or ordinance. So tonight, my legal advice would be just repeal it. It's not enforceable the way it is because there's no rational basis for it. Okay? But obviously, if you have a drought, you have to act. And then we could leave ourselves the right to do that.
But we could do an exemption for people that have newly installed lawns.
Yeah, on that one, this actually did have that exemption in here,
We
surprisingly.
can have that
So
exemption.
we can have that exemption, but this again.
Yeah, I just figured if it was unenforceable, you know, do we need to repeal it necessarily right away, or do we just amend it? But
Well,
based on
no
your
one's-
advice,
Okay, no one's challenged it that I know of. So do you need to repeal it? Unless, if you were challenged and they went to court, we'd lose.
Well, my question is, why is this surfacing?
Because
Somebody posted it.
somebody posted it on Facebook, Sandy posted it on Facebook, and there was a lot of backlash. Which brought it up.
Why did she post it?
She did post it on Facebook.
I don't know. She asked Jen Rosick to post it on herself. I was not aware of it. But this did bring the issue forward. So I think it needs to be addressed. And we need to let the residents know that we will be passing a resolution that in times of emergency, droughts and like drought, look forward to, we could post it on the message board saying water restriction policy in effect. Visit the village website. But this is our first. So that's why I came up.
yeah.
My initial thought though is why would we even, in a case of emergency, by resolution, because if the ordinance is unenforceable, any resolution we pass in the future is unenforceable as well.
It's a suggestion, not a mandate.
You
We
might be
can
able
pass.
to do it, you might be able to do it by a second ordinance that gives you emergency powers under certain circumstances. Perhaps if a county calls a drought situation, or the state causes a drought situation.
But who would enforce that?
That, well, that depends. Yeah, you guys could enforce it if you had to, right? And then the state could enforce it, the county could enforce it. There have been drought situations in Michigan where they are enforced. Now, all it is a ticket, and you pay a fine, and most people will water anyways. These have always been problematic.
Yeah.
But are they, is this broad-based one enforceable? My opinion is it is not, because I can't find a rational basis for it. Okay? So I think you have to apply it to the times. I would love to tell you exactly how to do that, and I know what some communities have this emergency powers ordinance that in times of drought, the local government has the right to restrict the discretionary use of water for lawns and washing cars and all that. Now, to get there from here tonight is too large a jump. Now, the bottom line is I have not seen this enforced for years. It's been here forever. I don't know why it became public, and that's not my job to tell you why, but if you want my legal answer is, I read it, I think it's unenforceable if we were pushed, okay? And so if you bring it down and we write a new one, it's something we can look at to make it more precise, meet constitutional requirements. In times of need, it's a legitimate state interest. We need people to have drinking water, and we need water pressure, and if your lawn turns brown, it turns brown. But for the most part, the way it's written now is it applies across the board when there is no emergency.
Well, we don't necessarily have to pass a resolution if something, we could cross the bridge when it comes.
Yes, you could.
Instead of,
However you want to do it.
Resolution, we can set up a meeting.
However you want to do it. It could be a resolution, it could be an emergency law, we can do it any number of ways.
So I will make a motion to rescind this Chapter 495, Article 5, Section 495-35.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Comment on
Okay,
the
questions or
Go ahead.
comments?
comment on the motion. Does this have any bearing on section B about the second meter? I know that that has come up in the past where residents have wanted a second meter. I want to make sure that by repealing this, we're not doing anything that repeals allowing
She just
the
said
second.
section A though, right?
Did you say section
No, I said 495-35. Well, it's,
A? Section A.
you can still get a second meter.
No,
Well,
just
Not if
amend
you-
the
not
motion
if
to
you
section
rescind
S.
this.
Make it to section A only, then we have no problem.
At least the second meeting, please.
Second B is regarding.
So say that we're only repealing
So we
section
can
A.
only have a second meter because we have an ordinance that says we do?
However you guys set up second,
No,
I just,
but-
long before my time here.
But-
However, if you only take out section A, you won't affect the second meter status.
So my only reason why I'm bringing it up, I don't know if there's another ordinance that does or doesn't allow the second meter, but this one explicitly does. So if we repeal all of this, I don't know what that does, just because we haven't had a chance
Repeal
to.
section A because it has to do with research.
Right, so if we just repeal
Okay,
section
let's just go
A,
with A then.
To be on the safe side.
right, just be safe. And then we
We
can,
should look into that
Right.
because there's no it's not necessary to have an ordinance on the book that doesn't mean anything.
Right, we'll look
That's
into it.
correct.
Okay.
Did I support it there? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, fire department truck tires. We have in front of us a request from monthly tires for fire department. Total cost is estimated to be $3,692. And they got a call out, so they can't really explain it, but they do need tires.
So just because we just discussed it at the fire department meeting, the truck is 18 years, I think he said, 19 years? 18. It's still on the same set of tires, so they really need tires. And we do have two competitive bids. One was for $6,900 and the ultimate one that they're requesting us approve is for the
It was a
36.
Yeah, what were those tires again?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, they give you an advertising campaign.
Yeah, but he said that they're starting to be a little bit, well, after 19 years.
Imagine that.
Anything would be a big gouge, I suppose.
But it said the estimate is $36.92, so we would probably do a motion up to maybe 4,000.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
I think they're within the time frame, as I remember.
No, he actually said this was done on 7/19, so it's subject to change.
Okay,
I
so
thought.
would 4,000?
I think if we did at a cost not to exceed 4,000. Can I make that motion?
are you making a motion?
I'm going to make that motion to approve the fire department's purchase of new tires in an amount not to exceed $4,000.
Support.
Roll call.
Can I just make a comment?
Yeah.
Can I just make a comment real quick? It's coming out of their budget.
It is coming out of their budget, we're just approving it.
Trustee Meissen?
Yes.
Trustee Pankowski?
Yes.
Trustee Burkholey?
Yes.
And President Price?
Yes.
I apologize because I know this is, now you just had me a little confused. So if it's coming out of their own budget, why do we need to approve it?
We have to approve purchases over a certain amount,
Oh.
regardless of whether it's coming out of their budget or
4,000
not.
is over that amount?
I think it's 2,500.
Oh,
I think we
okay.
need to revisit that.
We probably should revisit that because 19-year-old tires at less than $4,000 is.
Should need council.
Well, but at some point, we have to give the fire department leeway to stop coming and pleading we will use their own money.
Well, that's,
Yeah.
So I
that's,
think we have to revisit that
when you
policy.
mentioned it, it just really struck me.
Because actually a couple of the things that we discussed at fire department committee are specifically coming out of their budget and not exorbitant amounts.
Yeah, the incremental amounts, but we still
Yeah.
have to go forward, so it's kind of like, at some point, you know, we have to let them take charge.
Yeah.
All right, unfinished business, we have taxed foreclosed properties, we got the list last month. These are all vacant properties on Clark, Delaney, Victoria, and Lutz. I did contact Paige Blanchard at the county. No claims were put in on these properties. meaning that no family member or entity came forward laying a claim on the properties. So these are available to be purchased as the right of first refusal. We had two properties that we had talked about, the Clark Street property and the Lutz Street property. If anybody drove by the Lutz property, you'll see it's a utility greenway. There's power lines going straight across. And basically, we couldn't do anything with that property. It's just not, I don't think we should, it's not worth it. Did anyone else drive by the Lutz property? Yeah, it's.
I think they had already told us that you couldn't build on it.
Yeah,
at the
you
last meeting.
could have been the one with it. No, the Clark Street property. When I went to the Salt River Greenway meeting with Anthony Reeder there, and I told them that this property, this acreage, which runs north off of Clark Street, was available for purchase. They got all kind of tingly about it, because that was one of the properties they had initially thought of reaching out to the owner about acquiring the Salt River Greenway. They have a drone that will actually fly over properties that they are considering for projects. But Anthony, what did they say that drone could do?
There was a bunch of mapping.
Mapping, mineral, landscape.
Electronic sensors.
Yeah, it's kind of scary what that thing can do. But they're going to mark it with a star, and they're going to send their drone over it. And I'm talking to one of the young ladies at the meeting. Her son goes to Merritt Academy. They actually bring their fishing poles to the Salt River through that thing, and they go fishing. So I think it would be in our best interest to acquire this property, ultimately for the Salt River Greenway, that, even then, just to acquire the property. It backs up to, it runs along the back of Riverbrook. So my concern also is if we do not acquire the property, it may be acquired for expansion. So I don't know, if they would acquire the property for walls or whatever, but we could put it to much better use.
And what is the cost of that one again? Do you?
This one would cost us $5,762.
And we had to ask for it by what date?
2 days from the 12th. Yeah, by the 12th, August. Okay. We have to let them know. Today's the 9th. And I also did check the page and there's no question on it.
Okay.
So, now I also sat in on a webinar at Larry Roca's office up the county. And that was confusing. They had a lot of active cases about tax foreclosed properties being acquired by municipalities. But the lead case right now is on the west side of the state. And the argument the attorney is making is that the person who has lost that property because they were unable to pay their taxes is being denied full assessed value because it went up for taxes. But some of the communities talked, and a lot of communities in southeastern Michigan acquire these properties and turn them over to nonprofits like Habitat for Humanity, who redevelops homes in usually depressed areas, and they help to revitalize the area. So there is a community, I think a community need for this, but it's still at West Court appellate level. They said it could take anywhere from 3 to 5 years to settle by the time it works its way through the system. So I just want to make you aware that there is a challenge to this type of purchase on the west side of the state. It could take years to resolve. So if the current assessed value is $23,000, which even then is an ungodly amount of 5 acres. So, but if we acquire the property now, we would be able to tell the Salt River Greenway project we've acquired the property, and they would all get all giddy about it. So do we have any other questions, concerns?
I guess the Lutz property doesn't necessarily worry me too much about it being an electrical easement.
Have you seen the wires?
Yeah, so all of the houses that were just developed along in Decorah Park are on the electrical wire easement.
Yeah.
You have a form you fill out, and they're pretty lax on it. It's, you can have sheds under there, you can have your fences going through the easement. It's just that if they have to come through, they need to be able to have their equipment come in and out. And they said, typically they only come through like once every 15 years.
Well, have you, now I know you gave some thought to potential development on the lease property.
Well, yeah,
Do
if
you
it was
have
like
some
just some
ideas?
sort of, we could have like some sort of park,
Like a green space,
green
like a
space,
garden.
yeah, or even like a playscape over there or something. It's not that far from the Lions Club,
Would you
which,
feel comfortable with a playscape on your Williams?
That would concern me.
That would concern me.
I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking, but thinking along those lines, I was thinking about maybe something like soccer practice field, but again, the Warriors over there. It's always the risk of the downed wire on any activity there. So we could create a garden, and I mean, I am all for pocket gardens. We could certainly acquire it, create a pocket garden with benches, for this minimal cost. The property is not being maintained, so we would be able to, maintain it. It would be another amenity for the residents. So, Lutz is 1,471 hours.
The only one that really, at least, personally to me, that I wouldn't really think there's really any value there would be Victoria Street.
It's so small.
Well, that's right up against the railroad tracks.
Yeah, it's so small.
You can't really do anything. It's more of like an easement to the railroad.
And Delaney is in a residential neighborhood, and I would rather that go back if someone has to purchase it on the land.
Unless we were to do something like that, Habitat for Humanity, which I like that idea.
Habitat for Humanity rehabs houses. There's no existing structure there.
Don't they have?
No, they actually build as well.
They build?
Yeah, they build. Habitat for Humanity absolutely builds.
Okay, well, we'd have to reach out to them and see if they were interested.
Yeah, I mean, that's a gamble on 2 days' notice. That might be too.
I know.
So, is the Salt River Greenway a nonprofit, or
I guess I have a question.
would we be turning it over to them?
Who?
The Salt
For
River Greenway.
The Salt River Greenway project is a development that will go to several communities. Each community will be responsible for their portion of the greenway. And it's, and I gave you guys the information on it a while ago. It's been a while. I understand.
I just, like, we would acquire this property and then give it to somebody for them
No,
to
we
do.
would
we
hold it
would-
and give permission for the greenway.
Right,
to be on it.
and they would
We did
put,
the easement.
So we would continue to own that property.
And we'd have to maintain it.
yeah, it would be an asphalt, like 4-foot path.
But I guess I'm confused when you look at the greenway, so we actually already own to the north of the property that we're looking at acquiring is owned by the Village of New Haven, backs up to Amherst, and it's
Right.
basically the woods and stuff, but then this portion is part of the Amherst community.
Right, and they would have to talk to Amherst going forward. And again, you're looking at a potential of a 12 to 15% increase in your property value, but that's indicative.
Sure, but
Are you talking that
If you
little
wanna-
cut in?
I'm talking like my backyard.
Yeah,
Okay,
all the houses in the line.
Wait, is that the wetland zone?
No, it's over here. So they're proposing that it's gonna run right along the river bend, so then, but the problem becomes, the village already owns this. This is what they're proposing to pick up. This is the Amherst.
Oh, so you'll cut that part? What? You'll cut the grass?
No, I'm not cutting it.
Okay, well, you're gonna maintain. No, again.
I'm just saying, when I'm sunbathing naked, nobody's gonna be really happy about that.
Thanks for painting that picture.
You are welcome.
Strike that from the minutes. Strike that from the minutes. No, again, this is in its infancy, and
Of course, yeah.
will be.
There's a lot of space for a buffer zone too.
Yeah,
I'm
but-
just saying, like,
But they will be.
so we've talked about Decorah Park.
Right.
How do we, I'm fine with it. I like a 15% increase in property values, and I'm not shy, so.
It's been nothing but positive, and again, if you look at the Pink Creek
Yeah.
development, it's a definite asset for that area. And again, the more amenities that you have in your community, the higher, the more cool points you get, and your property values go up. New Haven will be the place to go. So,
In regards to your question though, with the houses that are on Brockton, does your property technically extend all the way to the edge of the Amherst owned property?
So technically speaking, we don't have property.
Well,
Right,
your lot.
but realistically speaking, we have use all the way up to the creek. So if I wanted to fence that backyard, I could. And there are houses that have gone further, not maybe all the way there. I don't need to cut down the trees or anything. Again, I'm not anti-greenway. I actually think it's a great idea. and there's a ton of trees for buffer. If you put it closer to the riverbed, there's plenty of room to have some trees and then a walkway. I'm just saying, like, from a planning perspective, I know Amherst hasn't been, like, I mean, we've probably been talked to, but not really approached.
Okay, understand.
Sure.
This is the planning stage.
No, of course, and I understand.
And we're not
that.
going to discuss whether or not
I'm not.
they're going to be, that's not the point right now. The point is acquiring the property.
I'm
Well,
just,
it's a valid question.
It is a valid question.
Like, we're gonna-
It's not gonna be used for that purpose, right?
Yeah, but again,
We could always turn around and say,
we could always divert it and have it go neighborhood. But acquiring the property down there, people are using it for fishing. So it'd be nice just to acquire, even if the greenway doesn't go there through there.
I don't have a problem with it. I really just was saying if we acquire it and we can't even end up putting it there, like, right, we don't have an unabridged, like, area, that's all I was saying. That there's a gap between the two
Do you
spaces.
want to reach out to Amherst before we approve purchasing? We got the
Just-
okay.
Literally was
But
making a
really, that
point.
would be our problem, that's the group, this Greenways group.
Sure.
That's their job to approach them. No different than the trail going to Romeo. It just wasn't undeveloped land.
Of course, yeah.
They had to approach all those
Hey, you're going
homeowners.
to be part of that. Part of your role on the planning.
The only point I was making is that it doesn't immediately connect to what we already own, that there's still a gap, that's it. Right.
Okay, that's great. That's good. And that's a good point, because I forgot about the property.
Because we do own the property north of it, bordering the lines.
So I'll make a motion. Well, do you want to make a motion?
Do we want to acquire the Lutz property? Do we want to acquire the Lutz property?
I'm open to the idea. I don't know how everybody else feels, but I
We
mean,
would have to maintain that.
right.
And
That is the catch.
Yeah, and the only thing we return it into is a garden, but right now it's kind of flooded. So maybe, I don't know. What do you think?
I would like to see the Clark property, and I would also like to see the Lutz property, because if we can cut it now and maintain it, but it is an opportunity maybe for Eagle Scouts and things like that, projects, to do community garden beds.
Yeah.
You know, here's a place to do it
Yeah.
for $1,000.
Yeah, it's worth it. Okay, that's a very good idea. Okay. So do we have a motion?
So that's my motion, to acquire the Lutz property and the Clark Street property.
Both in one motion?
Can I do both in one?
Yeah.
Or do you want me to do them separate?
Yeah,
Would you like me to do them separate, Ryan?
because it's buying property, do them separate.
Okay,
Five
so
parcel numbers.
I'll start with the Clark Street property.
Parcel numbers?
Parcel number,
Do you want this?
yeah, that would be wonderful, thank you so much. Okay. Parcel 26-06-27-300-019, and it is $5,762.43.
Support.
Roll call.
I have one question.
Yes.
So this litigation that's happening, is that based on this dollar amount here, the 23,000? Or as time goes on, once that is settled, does the property grow in value?
It might go down in value.
Perfect, okay.
Okay. It will go with the market.
Right, I mean.
Fair market value is the basis
At
of
the
this
time
entire
of this-
litigation.
The time of the purchase?
Oh, and also the litigate, the webinar is on. They said it could take 3 to 5 years in the case of the go to court, and the look back would be 2 to 3 years.
Oh, perfect, that answers my question.
You're
Then
fine.
it is this value.
Yeah.
It's a good question, but you're fine.
Okay, so that's my motion.
Support.
Roll call.
Trustee Pankowski?
Yes.
Trustee Meiser?
Yes.
Trustee Bellinger?
Yes.
Trustee Kozoli?
No.
President Wright?
Yes.
Okay, my next motion is to purchase the Lutz property, parcel number 26-06-33-402-010. And I thought you said it was 1,000.
Well, that was the total due, that was just the tax due, but if you add in the interest, the total due is $31.41.
Huh.
Where is it? I apologize, it is, I looked at the wrong figure. 3,141, you want to revisit it?
I still think it's worth it for that price. I mean, I really like the idea of having some sort of community green space there.
Is it a street that you can park on?
Oh, yeah. This one's,
We could sell it for that dollar amount, correct?
well, why would we just leave it as it
If-
is?
Well, no, but that's.
I'm
a
just
good
saying, if
point.
we acquired it and then
Change our minds.
later, you know,
Oh, yeah, we could. Well, we can't make a profit.
so I'll put it out there. What was the dollar amount?
$3,141.
$3,141.
And 10 cents.
And
Okay.
10 cents.
Support.
Oh, God.
Trustee Pankowski?
Yes.
Trustee Meissen?
Yes.
Trustee Capoli?
No.
Trustee Bellinger?
No.
And President Whitmore?
Yes.
Motion failed.
The Lions Club,
Well, no, it was 3-2 for one.
No one.
It passed. 1, 2, 3.
Not a majority of
It's
council.
not a majority of council.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was just counting the 5 of us here this evening. You are correct.
so none of them.
So good, all right. good.
So we're passing up on all the properties.
No.
No, I
We're
heard
yes for
Park Street,
yes.
Yeah, Park Street went
You
through
are
this.
correct.
So Luke's.
We don't have to maintain it. It's-
Okay, perfect, so let's
Yeah,
close
let's
that.
do it. The Lions Club. You've all received the information, the vote from the Lions Club board members. And I think everyone got Dave Collins' building assessment. Did we have any questions on the inspection report?
I have a question about your voting.
Yeah.
I want us, the members, did I see a note on here that somebody voted via phone?
It was a no vote, she couldn't make the meeting. But it was a 7-1 vote, the one no vote was not at the meeting. But it was 7.
And so they were all on voice chat. All eight board members present and on voice chat.
Yeah.
And Vanessa Gilbert made no vote,
Yeah, she didn't know.
so she chose to abstain. But
Is that, what's the,
That's their procedure. That's what they did.
Well, you're not on the vote, it's 7-1.
It's still 7-1.
I can't see anybody overturning it.
okay, that's my question.
I just can't see it. I mean, I guess in some wild judge's mind, maybe, but normally.
it says she was present,
I
no
mean,
vote.
we live in an era where everything's being
Yeah,
done
it
on
says all of them
phone
are.
and Zoom. I just don't see anybody being able to successfully challenge it.
Okay.
It's not my favorite practice, but
Yeah, you gotta remember Pam, who did the voting, was up in Traverse City.
Okay.
So,
And then they passed this document around and they signed it, is that,
Yeah,
okay.
so. Yeah, she has somebody down here, but he said he'll pass it on.
Okay.
But
I
we
just
got-
didn't want us to find ourselves in a position that,
No. The Lions Club has been in New Haven since I think the 1960s or 70s. And I don't have to tell any of you the wonderful things they've done for our community, especially Irma Marlowe. She collected backpacks. They did vision testing at the elementary school. They did feather bowling every November, which is constantly lost. To support, they have to pay dues to the Lions International, and it helps support the building. They've done a lot of good for the community, but their attendance has dwindled, their membership has dwindled, and financially they're no longer able to support the building, to keep the Lions Club active here in New Haven. But the members assured us that the remaining members, they will be here in the community and still actively helping us out. Now, the only conditions that they put on us to acquire the building is that they are allowed to use it twice a year, for feather bowling to continue their charitable work, and for the Halloween trunk or treat they've done here for years. Last year we did it in the park. So they want to be able to continue just those 2 events. They stopped taking reservations. They only have one other function coming up. And if you look at Dave's report, the main structure and garage appear to be structurally sound, with roof systems that have been recently installed. Plumbing is intact. The HVAC system is rough. If you saw the photographs, there was rust. So that would have to be replaced. And floor tile does have several damaged and missing tiles. They will be cleaning out the building anyway. They do have a lot of dishes in there and a riding mower. They'll be cleaning it out. But we would have to do some work on the building. Now, the American Rescue Plan funds do allow communities to utilize that fund for public structures, for recreation. So if we wanted to utilize that or just, use the general fund to upgrade the building. The property also comes with an additional lot on the other side, that little stub of Lincoln Street. That additional lot is also included.
No, it's not.
No, it's not.
Well,
The letter is not.
we had this discussion before, and that's where, I'd like to have that firmly defined, because I know.
Who owns it?
The letter
letter
says
says-
they're gonna sell it.
The letter.
No. That letter, she was under the misapprehension, the Lutz property that we thought about buying, she thought they owned that lot.
This says the vacant property owned by the Lions Club across the street from the hall will be sold by our realtor with 100%
Okay,
of the
across
sale
the
equally
street,
equal.
across Lutz. I had the discussion with Pam. She thought she owned the property. If you do the tax information on that Lutz property, at one point the Lions Club did own it. If you go to the Parcel Explorer, they own that little piece of property on the same side of Lutz, across from that little stub.
Yeah, it's in the packet.
That's what I was
There's a lot
talking
in the
about.
Lions Club.
That's what I was talking about, the green space, the other side on the same side of Lutz. But no, I had to inform her.
But it's across the street, it's across Lincoln.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, she was talking about the Lutz property.
But I think it should be spelled out better.
We need a better.
Right.
If I could help you, the property across from Lincoln Street is owned by the Lions Club. The property across from Luke Street, which you were just talking about, is the property that they thought that they owned. Back at one time, it was given to them for gardening, and they never changed they never went in and got the deed on the property. So, and that was a piece that you were just talking about, putting the garden in, where the wires.
And I agree with the intention, I'm just saying if we're moving forward, it should be well defined what property we're acquiring.
This says parcel blah, 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 the empty lot across Lincoln Street is vacant and owned by the Lions Club, not part of the sale.
Oh, okay. Then they're not selling that with it. I mean, they're not getting that with that.
Right.
But they is owned by.
She was surprised to learn she didn't know.
No, it says the one.
No, the one across Lincoln is,
That is it.
that's what they want to hold on.
That's what they want to hold on to, so it doesn't come with this.
No, it doesn't.
That's what the letter says, is the one across Lincoln Street, not across Lutz.
Across Lincoln is not.
So the letter says across the street. President Pridemore is saying that when she had the conversation with Pam, that she meant the Lutz property.
I understand.
And I know, and I agree with you. So it's too ambiguous right now where it says across the street, because we're all reading it thinking
But it
that it's
says
the property
across
across
Lincoln
from
Street.
Lincoln. It doesn't say
It
Lincoln.
says Lincoln right here.
That's what Rachel typed up.
Yep,
That's Rachel.
that's mine.
It's her interpretation of the letter.
That was me showing you guys the property.
So where you see, so the actual letter from Pam does not say Lincoln, it just says across the street. That's what President Pridemore is trying to explain.
I think can we put together a new letter that defines that, because that's what they use for like
Or could we-
green stuff.
Could we make the motion with the, condition being that it includes the property
I'm
across
fine
from
with
Lincoln?
that. I just don't want the ambiguity.
Right, I agree. I don't want to make the assumption that it includes the property across the street on Lincoln and then find out it doesn't.
It does.
Right.
But also there is a cost associated with it. They're requesting $12,500. $7,500 would pay the Lions International, and $500 would pay for the roof repairs, and that's going to go on that.
This says $12,040.
Well, 5,000 of it goes to the roof repairs and the rest goes to the Lions Club and asphalt. We figured that changed. So, but she's only asking $12,400 for it.
12,040.
40, I'm sorry.
So after we,
She gave me three different figures and I'm trying to figure out which one.
so all that aside though, okay, so if we acquire this property, what are we doing with it? Why are we acquiring this one?
Turn it into another community center.
And then the community center on Haven Ridge would be a senior center, and there's more funding available to improve senior centers than there are community centers. So
I do have a gentleman who already reached out through a Chesterfield trustee, interested in using the Lions Club if we were to acquire it. He has a motorcycle club.
I hope not.
That was, it's a veteran-owned motorcycle club that was interested in having a couple of activities there.
it would be, we would have to set up a rental policy like we're setting up for the
Exactly. It would be
senior center.
just like any other community
And
center.
our park, and we have to update our park policy too, so if we get acquired the property, there would be a rental property, there would be rental agreements and going forward if we did acquire the property. We could have a motion to acquire the property for that figure, including the property on Lake Street. Yeah.
Okay, so I know this is a future conversation, but October's coming and it's coming pretty quickly. If we get this and give them permission to utilize it, it already specifically states that the parking lot is in disrepair.
Oh, you can still park on it though, there's not. They've been parking, it's been like that for years.
I know, but it's their liability when they've been using it for years during the trunk or treats at night for the kids.
They have grass going up in cracks.
Well, right, so Trustee Bellinger's point though is that now if we do acquire it, now is our liability.
But we've also been doing trunk or treat in the park. And I think if we can still do it this year, this one last year. It worked out very well in the park last year. It worked out very well. So,
But they want to host it on our property, so it's our liability.
Unless they pull out event insurance.
How long is this offer good for? Is there an expiration date on it? 'Cause I
we
still-
kicked this down, but keep down
still
to
like
2
to
months
see
now.
it.
I know we have, but it's,
No,
like,
that's
I'm,
not- this is
and
the
I
first
want them
one.
to use it. I'm not opposed to acquiring, I just think that no, I'm not opposed to it. I think that's unfair. I think there's logistics that are for conversation, and in fairness, I apologize, but I wasn't here last
Did you
month.
go through the parking lot?
Yeah, I've been in the parking lot. I've
Did you
actually
see
done and
any
sponsored the
lot?
truck retreats, and there's trip hazards, in my opinion.
Okay.
And we have kids that
Could
are
we
paying.
use the vacant lot across Lincoln?
Sure, but they don't do that. They have people in the building, so the kids are going between. And when they owned it, that was their liability. I guess there's plenty of time. I'm sure we'll get it handled at some point, but October's coming up pretty quickly, and if they're gonna utilize it, I just think it's.
Could we get them to sign a liability?
They can pull out an event policy from an insurance company that would cover liability for it. That's all I'm saying is, like, I think we should talk about the logistics piece of that. There's
Yeah,
not
it's only
liability on the
two,
village.
yeah, it's only two, and the one, the feather boa is inside, the feather bed is inside.
Right.
So, I don't think, yeah.
So I do think, so to Trustee Bellinger's point,
Anybody that wants to.
I think anybody that rents it should, that's not always the way it's done.
Yeah.
I think to Trustee Bellinger's point, with the existing community center that we have, and then this possible additional community center, we really do need to have that community center rental agreement policy
Could you send me?
so that it does require any, whether it's the Lions Club property or it's our community center, if somebody's renting it out.
There should be a liability policy.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have to update the park rental policy.
If we have karate at one of our public buildings.
Any event that's held on village property should have some kind of policy in place.
Right.
Well, we do have waivers for people that are using the community centers, that we can sign waivers for liability. So,
So if we get the building, it needs a parking lot?
Yeah, it was on the inspection report underneath the furnaces. It needs
Okay,
furnaces,
and it needs
roof repair, but
furnaces.
that's included in the purchase
yeah,
price.
that's already been done.
And then it needs
Tile in the
tile in the kitchen. The plumbing is adequate but outdated, and the driving, or the parking lot needs to be done.
And
So
the
big ticket items are in your parking lot?
And the
And
furnace.
they-
Furnace.
That's big ticket, and then the tiling, but that's not really, it depends on who you get, I
well,
guess.
the kitchen really needs to be
For
done.
that,
Yeah.
how much do you think that parking lot cost?
I'm just trying to measure it right now.
replacement.
And could we at any point add that to one of the roads that's being done?
I was gonna ask that next.
Well, we couldn't take it out of the same balance, but
But to get bid with that.
right, exactly, yeah, the funds would have to be appropriated separately, but.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
This is part one we just got last month, was the first time we learned about this.
I sent it. And I know the price has to be covered. $240,000. Let's see how close. Yeah, let's see how close we are to $240,000 for the parking lot. Oh no, the property was going to go up for sale. 400,000. Yeah, it's 400,000 on the assessed value. No, I'm just spitballing.
You're
Cost of
spitballing cost of
parking.
parking.
Yeah. Hey, I came close to the 800,000 for the result. I was thinking pretty good at this.
Roughly about 100.
About 100,000?
I was off.
I was thinking two.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
There we go.
So two with the furnace and floor too.
Yeah,
That's complete replacement.
That's complete replacement?
yeah.
And then the furnaces we just did at the community center, so we know that that's about, what, I think 31 is what our bid came in.
And Dave was recommending, I think, 2 years. I think he was recommending, a private air conditioning for 2 years.
But that's what we did at the community center,
Yeah.
was too, so we
Yeah.
know what that ballpark is.
Yeah, so,
So we've got 200,000 in if we,
So do they have us against a law that we have to make a decision this month, Ann?
yes. She would like to be done with it.
Well, I
They would like
understand
to be
that,
done
but I
with
think, I would like us to have a plan for the future.
So,
That's what I would.
That's kind of where I'm at too.
And
I'm
I'm
not spending my money, I'm spending tax money.
If I may finish, and the reason why is because the building I'm sitting in. I'm dealing with things, not just we are dealing with things that, for decisions that other people made, and we're not happy with it. Every month after month. So I would just like a plan. What are we gonna do with it? Who's gonna man it? What is this gonna look like?
I'm not opposed to that, but just devil's advocate here, it's $12,500. And in the future,
We can
it's
sell it.
not a tax foreclosed property, so we can make a profit off of it. And at $12,500, you can make some money off of it.
Okay.
Regardless of,
Okay. And you know what? That's why last month I brought up, we may not always own this building. Do they realize they're not gonna be able to use it for their parties forever?
Yeah, if we had to vacate this property.
Right.
and that has to be in the sales agreement. Well, I mean, it's not a deed restriction anyway, so.
Yeah, they can't, right.
They can't hold the future.
Not that you said.
Yes.
Okay. Fair enough.
I make a motion that we acquire the Lions Club and the vacant parcel across Lincoln Street in an amount not to exceed $12,500.
So moved. Do you want the parcel numbers?
I can pull them up right now, I've got them in front of me. And I'll amend my motion to state parcel numbers 0633261001 and 0633258003.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I seconded it already.
Yeah.
you said she's right.
I think she's right parcel numbers, right?
I got it.
It's already moved in.
Yeah, you moved, she supported.
Yeah.
You
Roll call.
Trustee Bellinger?
Yes.
Trustee Bankowski?
Yes.
Trustee Meisen?
Yes.
Trustee Foley?
No.
President Craig?
Yes. Okay, budget amendments, Sandy is not here, but I think we can do it. She forwarded budget amendments, proposed budget amendments, and they're all in positive territory. Miscellaneous income, a budget increase of $36,580. Health insurance, an increase of $39.61. Memberships and dues, an increase of $854. Physicals, proof SVCS appointment physicals, $138. Okay, what is this? Equipment repair and maintenance, $139.98. Workers' compensation, $288.23. Municipal hydrant, $500.
Those are the balances.
Those are the, yeah, but those are the new balances. We're proposing a $1,000 increase, I'm sorry, thank you for pointing that out. $1,000 increase in, gosh, these
That's a
numbers.
$500 increase.
No, it's a
If you look at the budget amendment plus minus,
$1,000 decrease in salaries or
is that a decrease or an increase? She puts her increases in red in parentheses. Doesn't she, Rachel?
Well, we're not increasing the budget.
But we're amending the budget because we have this extra money. So we're showing a true balance.
Right, so we're amending it. Oh.
Yeah. You have to keep your figures.
No,
yeah.
I know, but
No,
would
that-
we be
for
amending it
the-
to decrease?
That is a decrease.
Yeah,
It's
it's a decrease.
redistributing the wage to
I
track.
asked you before if red meant an increase. You said it was an increase.
I said it depended on the fund,
Okay.
if it was an expense or a revenue.
Okay, so walk us through this. What are we looking at?
Balancing the budget.
And the numbers are?
The numbers are to bring expenses in line with the revenues. And she has, like, over the first one, current real estate tax, the budget amendment is positive $211,000 is to record the taxes. For Michigan State sales tax, it's increasing $100,000 to record the increase from population. The miscellaneous income, the $36,750 is the 47 acres. So there's a note next to all of them of what she's doing and why she's doing it.
So the ones in red are decreased.
Those are decreased. The salary is to redistribute to wage traffic. The 1,900 is medical buyout to transfer to employee costs. The 8652 is to redistribute the costs from the Great Lakes Water Authority, and the 9,444 is to redistribute the costs from the Great Lakes Water Authority.
Okay, so the revenue increase would increase the number. See, that's why these numbers are confusing me. I've asked her for simpler forms.
The revenue increase is $409,000, $686.55, and the expense increase is $162,920.81.
So we have a net increase overall of $211,245.05. Okay. Thank you.
Maybe in the future, I understand she's on vacation this week, but she needs to come and accompany this.
Yes, I know, but she was off sick the last meeting, not on vacation.
Oh, I'm just.
She would have been. She would have
Okay.
been. She was able to. She always was.
Thank you.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve Sandy's recommended budget amendments?
Make a motion to approve the budget as amended.
Support.
Roll call.
Trustee Bellinger?
Yes.
Trustee Domkowski?
Yes.
Trustee Meissen?
Yes.
Trustee Capoli?
Yes.
And President Trump?
Yes. Macomb County Model Animal Control Ordinance. As you're all aware, in the spring we worked with Macomb County, Mr. Randazzo of the county, to update what was then our current animal control ordinance. And he worked with us and gave us a sample and we approved it. Then he came forward with another model ordinance. And I don't know if anybody had a chance to review our newest iteration compared to what he was proposing. I noticed one significant difference, severe weather conditions, where it shall be unlawful any person leaving a dog outside unattended during a period in which severe weather has been issued. I didn't notice that on our amended one. Did anyone notice any other changes? Because I don't know if you want to adopt their recommended new ordinance, or if you just wanted to retain our.
So I brought this up last time we did it, but our ordinance 352, and when it was presented to us, was our animal control ordinance would be Macomb County animals, and 352 says that.
But we'd have to adopt this again, because that was their ordinance at the time.
Yeah, well, if we did this just like the fire code, we don't have to update our fire code every time the fire code changes, because we said our fire code is what is the national whatever fire. We did the same thing with Macomb County.
But
Whatever their ordinance changes to, ours changes with theirs.
I thought we did, though. Don't we every time when they update the fire code?
Ordinance
it's like
352.
No, we changed it last time so that we didn't have to do it every time.
Ordinance 352 is from what year, Mario?
18.
2018, and then we updated it with 396 to be a whole new ordinance. So 352 said we adopt in the Macomb County ordinance, whatever they may change, to be our ordinance. And then we changed from 352 to 396.
And when this was presented in 18, that was the shtick behind it, was we didn't have to do the animal ordinance every single time, because when they changed theirs, ours changed with it.
But then he
because
came
ours
up
is theirs.
and he recommended that we adopt a new ordinance. Did we adopt a full ordinance, or did you just say we're going to approve whatever comes down the road?
Village of New Haven explicitly granting Macomb County Animal Authority to enforce its animal control ordinances.
Rachel, the one we approved over the spring, what is it? Is it an actual ordinance?
It's an actual 11-page ordinance, and the one you just gave us with this is 33 pages, so there's a significant change.
Okay. So the question is, do we want to retain our updated 11-page ordinance, which superseded the 2018 ordinance, or do we want to just adopt, going forward, their ordinances?
I would rather do an ordinance that just kept up with theirs, and like we did before, and keep it.
When he talked to me back in the spring, he said, well, this is what your new ordinance should look like. He didn't recommend that when I worked with him. So we could just, if you want, we could adopt this ordinance and just say going forward, as they amend their ordinance, we'll comply with. We could do that. Or would we just do an ordinance saying whatever the county?
We can do our ordinance that adopts whatever the county's present ordinance is.
Yeah, you want to just do that? So do we need to repeal the ordinance we corrected this one?
Not till I have time to get you a new one.
Okay, so that's coming down the pipe for next month. So is it okay if we have Mr. Addis work on the language to just adopt Macomb County's
Repeal the
animal?
present one and we'll adopt Macomb's on an ongoing basis.
Right, and just, we'll get notification when they change it.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. All right.
Sorry he didn't guide you in the right way.
Huh?
I said, I'm sorry he didn't guide you in the right way.
Yeah,
No, they want to have a uniform ordinance.
yeah, that's fine. And I'll let them know that going forward, when we adopt it in September, that just whatever you got, just send us to me. Macomb, let's see, that's done. And then we've got a call from the floor. Call from the floor. Can you have your name?
My name is Scott Nell, and I am here representing a nonprofit motorcycle veterans group. I'm currently the vice president for Whiskey Alpha Chapter Leatherneck Motorcycle Club, and I have a few brothers with me here today. And our interest was initially for the Lions Club. We were interested in that, making that our home. We currently meet out of the Amvest Post over here, this Post 72. For those of you who don't know us or haven't seen us around, I don't know how you haven't seen us, but we've been around for 15 years now. Our primary focus, we are all Marines, every one of us. And our primary focus is raising funds to help our veterans. Some of our charities, for example, is the 124 Memorial. Another one is Mission 6. They train dogs for service to a veteran. So they train a dog for a veteran if they came back, PTSD or whatever. The VA does not help these veterans with the cost. So that's where we step in. We just paid for a dog that was $15,000 for one dog. And we have 2 other dogs that are currently, we have deposits on. So that's for some of our charities. Our intent is to stay in New Haven. This is kind of the center of our AO, our operating area. And it kind of extends from like Port Huron down to 8 Mile from the water into Oakland County. So it's kind of a large area. So New Haven is kind of uniquely situated in that it's somewhat central. So we would like to stay here. And I guess the second part of this is if we don't end up with the Lions Club, then we would like to at least be on your radar. If you hear of something, a tax foreclosure or something like that, I'll give you my number. I assume this is being recorded. My number is 248-798-5776. Also, Mr. Woods here, he's the commander at the post, AMVET's post, so you can contact him or us, or myself. So it's an introduction of sorts because we kind of fly under the radar. We stay at the post. Obviously over 15 years, I mean, there's been no issues in the community, and we want to stay focused on New Haven. We want to stay here because this is close. But again, you know, if we're looking for a home, a building, and as a 501c3 nonprofit, many of these organizations go under, and the hierarchy of these organizations don't want those buildings or properties. So it's almost like a deed for deed or transfer from one owner to another, from one 501c to another. So that's kind of where we're looking at. We do have some money stashed away, but if we use it all to buy property, then we got nothing to fix it up. So that's kind of the conundrum we're in, being a nonprofit veterans group. You know, all our money is donations. So that's kind of where we stand, and it's kind of our introduction to you in sorts. And hopefully we'll hear something comes available. Thank you.
I'd like to talk to you guys after the meeting, if you would.
I'm sorry?
I'd like to talk to you, I'm sorry. I'd like to talk to you guys after the meeting for a few minutes. I think a couple of us would like to talk to you. And thank you for your service, gentlemen.
I don't know if any of you guys want to add anything to it, or? No, you're good. Thank you.
Call from the floor.
I'm Brett Harris. First thing I want is I hope that this village didn't purchase that building to sell to the Bikers Club. I don't have anything against bikers, but I do own the property next to it, and I also own a vacant lot just attached to the other property. And all my neighbors, we definitely do not want a biker club in our backyard. And I'm very serious. I hope this village did not make that purchase of $12,000 for that reason. The other question I would have is that is there the stipulations with the purchasing of this building? Is that the village can purchase this building and then go out and sell it right after you purchase it, or you have the abilities to sell it?
We can answer that. We'll talk to you.
You want to answer?
They can't.
I said you
Brett, you know about this.
Okay, second thing.
It's your comments, but they don't get to comment back.
That's fine.
We can respond to call.
You can do that on your.
Second question I'd ask is that I'm just a little curious that and I have nothing against Mr. White asking for our smart funds for our community credits and the municipal credits. And I didn't hear anyone up here ask any questions to it, but the village of New Haven has been doing some tremendous trips and I think good for the community that we can finally have some things that the community, that we finally get some of our tax dollars, that the trips that they have been getting. And I'm sure that you use that's where those funds are going to come from. I didn't understand why you give the community credits for 2023 to the SMART. And I know SMART does tremendously, and we pay a millage for that, and I mean, we get a lot from Lennox Township. But I didn't understand why you gave the funds away for the next year. And you've been doing a good job of using those funds. And I know you can't answer that either, right? The other question I had, and I noticed that the auditor had indicated that water and sewer fund is now doing good. The village, I don't know if any of you guys know, but the village is still under a cleanup for the wastewater treatment plant on Ambash Drive, and I think the village moved some funds, and those funds were supposed to have been put back, and I don't think that's ever happened. So I would, if I were some of you guys on the board, and I will be asking the state, because we were on a state mandate to clean that wastewater treatment plant up. Thank you.
Call from the floor. Call from the table.
I wanted to make a comment on the smart buses. I substitute teach at the admin building in the MISD program with autistic students. And with today's job market, our goal is to job train them, to get them employed, because every place is hiring. We went from 25 students to about 4 or 5 this summer, and we'll get more students in the fall. I gave every one of those students that smart number, and they're using it to go to work at Little Caesars, the Kroger, a lot of Richmond students, but they're Chesterfield, New Haven, and Richmond mostly. So because of that, none of them have driver's licenses. So, I mean, the airport shuttle is awesome, but, you know, I think actually this is even cooler.
Right, thank you. I have a couple of things. Sumedh and I attended a video meeting this morning with the MDOT team that's handling the Gratiot realignment. Sumedh, can you come up and talk for a minute?
Sure.
Because I'm just about to watch it.
I know you're sorry.
I feel like I'm going to puke.
Thank you. Yes, this was, good evening. This was related to the MDOT realignment of Clark and Gratiot. And based on field findings, there were some extra items that the contractor was asking for, and that scope got exploded, so to say. So they were asking for additional funds that way beyond the project scope and the original project budget and the grant. So we attended this meeting trying to figure out how we got paid for it. There's still a possibility that the grant covers a bulk of it with the 80-20 split, 80 federal, 20 local. That's the goal here, trying to cover those extras with the grant. I just got the details later on today, so I'm going to go through the numbers and look at the quantities, make sure that they understand what they need to do. And the grant administrator will review that and come back to us if it's covered or not. And then we'll bring it back to council if there are additional funding that council needs to approve to see that project goes forward. And then you guys have to make a decision on that.
The uptick on our portion was, what's the dollar figure again, on what we would have to pay?
The first splash was $200K.
Yeah. $200,000 out of our pocket for a realignment.
And we're arguing that some of that may not be complete village responsibility.
And we asked Heidi up at MDOT if we could reduce the scope of the project to fit our budget, and she said it was bid out at that project. To reduce it, we would have to actually start all over again. But if they do increase their portion, it would increase our portion maybe not $200,000 worth, but that intersection would be updated. Apparently there was a sewer that was missing.
Yeah, there was a storm sewer that they couldn't find, so that led to additional cost. Explained to a few members of council. So we had to bring it from a further distance, so it costs more. And the 3 driveways on the commercial property deteriorated so much that we have to replace it. So that's the bulk of the
And
additional.
the sidewalks have to be ADA compliant on all 4 corners.
Yes.
So just to let you know, there's a seismic shift in the cost. We're seeing how much MDOT the state's willing to absorb, and then we will have a new figure to bring forward to council. I might have to call a special meeting because they were ready to go next week, and this kind of threw a span in the works. So I maybe have to call a special meeting if we do have to approve additional funding for the project.
Yes, it will take us a couple of days to look at the numbers and present back to the contract administrator, and then she'll review it and get back to us, and then we'll bring it back to council.
And thank you for playing hardball with them. I'm trying to get this thing knocked down, but
We try.
unfortunately they were holding all the aces, so
Sure.
thanks.
Thank you.
The street funding, you heard our budget review from we do have excess funds, and even though we spent a lot of money in the past 18 months on updating the DPW garage, getting the equipment that we need, we still have a healthy fund balance. So what I would like to do is have the streets committee meet and see about setting up a separate streets fund where we could take money, unassigned funds from the general fund and put in a streets fund for street repairs. I don't think, we have the local fund, we have the major streets, but we would be able to add so that we could have more money in the pot, so when grants are available, or even if they're not, we could get some of our local streets repaired. So I'm attending that class on asset management. They'll be talking about creating TIPAs, they'll be talking about creating street funds, they'll be talking about different funding opportunities, but we really do need to start addressing the massive amount of the street repairs that are going to be coming that we know of, at least in the next 6 years. So the streets committee, we're on the streets committee.
I'm not in the streets committee. And I'm totally for fixing the streets because all my vehicles are gonna rattle apart at some point. But that fund balance that he gave us today was as of March 31st.
Right.
And we have done a lot of spending. So maybe before we start allocating funds, we get an updated number.
Absolutely. I still think we'll find, and again, some of the money that we spent the past year and a half, I'm like amazed.
No, I get it.
Yeah, we're still healthy. But yeah, we will definitely get the newest figures. We do our budget reviews every quarter, so probably the September figures will give us a way forward. But I would like Streets Committee to meet and give us a plan going forward so that we can get more money into that fund for street repairs. Lombardo reached out to us about Pembroke. They asked us if we had any street repairs, major street projects in Pembroke yet, because they want to step forward with their engineer and help fund the streets when there's street repairs in Pembroke. We had a resident call in about one corner in Pembroke, and I've been in contact with them, and I let them know Lombardo reached out to us, so the residents there know that we're going to be working on street repairs there with Lombardo. So that's good news. And also, the last thing I wanted to address before my voice gets out, the electric issues that have been going on in the Weather Vane sub, on Marla, on Midfield, and Amherst, and Pembroke. I was in contact with DTE. I talked to their business representative who told me that if we can document 5 outages in 3 months, that
There was 3 last
There was 3
week.
yesterday.
There were 3 yesterday.
I'm telling them.
There were 3 last week, so there's 6 in a week.
Don't kill the messenger.
They're texting us. We have their documentation.
Yeah, we have their documentation. But I'm keeping a map, an outage map, and a outage list with dates, times, and I'm encouraging every resident. They made it very clear they want every resident that experiences a blackout to call, because they run certain reports by address only. If we got one person calling, that doesn't mean the whole cell tower. So we need everybody that experiences their lights going out to call them and report it. I will be contacting their business agent next week about how many brownouts or blackouts did Amherst experience?
3 yesterday.
3 yesterday.
Thank you.
And then we were without power for almost 12 hours.
Yeah.
Your side was, ours didn't go out until about 9 o'clock that night.
Our side
went out at
like
noon, we didn't go out until about 9.
Okay, yeah, if you guys, if one of you guys could document the times of those blackouts on the date and shoot them to me. But this is getting ridiculous. This is outrageous.
Try working from home.
I have my husband's angry texts from every single one,
But,
so.
but it's expanding. This area seems to be expanding.
Yes.
So, and they said once it triggers the power assessment audit, they will test from the substation to the grid to the subdivision. I think they've already done it, and look what it's done. But we're gonna keep at it.
Yeah, because the night before, they literally said they gave us the Cadillac transformers.
Was that
And
on
the
the
next
pole that
day-
was leaning?
No, that's a different
Okay,
one.
all right.
And it's not on the one that caught on fire either.
Okay,
The pole that's leaning is the one that caught on fire a few years ago.
okay, good. Okay, but it's.
Well, didn't the one right the other side of it? We lost one to a fire on the other side of the entrance, that's up too.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And also very quickly, I'm going to bring an idea forward at the September meeting about hiring fifth personnel for DPW, for parks and maintenance, because we are acquiring more facilities and greenways and improving our infrastructure. So I think we're going to need another body. So I'll be bringing that forward, get some facts and figures to bring that forward as well. And I hope everybody had a chance to review the proposed splash pad. I want to thank Vicki at the company, Vicki Crawford, for forwarding the information. She didn't forward anything yet on the pavilion. So I'll be talking to Vicki about that. So we are moving forward with the improvements the residents want to see on community park. So call from the table. Do I have a motion?
No, okay.
No,
A
no.
little laundry list over here.
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah,
Franz.
here we go, here we go.
So, the community center last month, well, it was on the agenda 2 months in a row about rules and regulations and rental. So who's manning that?
I'll take that, sorry, back where we had a couple of things pop up. But now that we know we have another facility, we can see all of
Well,
them.
outside of that, outside of acquiring another facility, that's slow. So you're gonna man that?
Yeah.
Okay.
When I get a chance.
Well, if you can't, then can we assign or can we find somebody that can do this for us?
I think we have to determine, what do you think? Do we have a committee that would be able to handle that? Not ways and means. Ways and means? I don't think that is financial. Parks and Rec. I want to talk to Parks and Rec about getting that.
Can you?
Of course, traditionally, I don't know, but we talk to Parks and Rec.
Well, can you assign that to them and could you give them a deadline? Sorry.
Yeah, sure. But what I will do also, we have to update our behavior-rich park policy because apparently people are renting the park and leaving it in horrendous conditions, so we have to address that.
Well, I would think whatever you come up with is gonna cover anything that's rented.
Yeah, but we have to amend that too. It really needs to be updated. It needs to be updated.
Okay. And then we talked about the Clark Street property, the west property, a couple months now, and that's still open. What should we do with that?
Seems like we need to have a workshop to discuss that one. I think we need to really have a focused discussion on what is it that we want to actually do with that, if we were to acquire it.
Could we schedule that for September? People have a lot of stuff going on right now and all of us are finding out. So could we schedule a workshop between the September and October meeting? Would that be okay?
I mean, I think we have until March of next year, right? So it's,
Well,
So I think,
yeah.
but you give us information about a splash pad, and it seems like you want us to vote on that in September. Is that correct, or we're going to talk about it in September?
No, we have to lock in the price.
Okay, so
I
then
gave you
I
the
think we
information.
should have a workshop prior to that meeting.
Oh, you guys want to do a workshop about the park improvements? They incorporate.
Why do we need to have a workshop prior to the splash pad on paper?
Well, her intention is to put it to vote. So I have a lot of questions.
Oh, I see, about this pad, so
There's other
unrelated
expenses.
to the 47
It's
acres.
right, so that's one thing, well, maybe we can discuss the
Kill two
two
birds
at
with
the
one
same
stone.
time.
That's what I understand.
So we would have to do it this, is availability available at the end of the month? For the last week or so?
With enough notice, I can.
Same.
Okay. All right. Shoot me some dates for the last week in August for availability. And we'll set up a workshop to discuss the 33 acres at Clark's.
How about Monday, August 29th?
Works for me.
6:30?
Sure.
I may have to go down to North Carolina.
Okay.
So, we still have to figure out a date on that. And that was Monday, the
29th to 29th.
29th. Everybody else available?
And then, so questions related to either property, in order for us to have answers at that meeting, by what date should those questions be submitted and to whom?
You may be asked the 23 questions.
Well, I didn't get an answer at all.
Well, if anybody has any questions that want to be discussed, shoot them to everybody, and we'll discuss it at the workshop.
Yeah.
Okay, but then we need answers at the workshop.
We need the questions before the workshop. If anybody has any questions, shoot them to everybody, and we'll spitball in the workshop.
Okay, but I understand what you're saying, but the meeting is, well, then, maybe calendar smaller. So the meeting is 2 weeks from then that you're gonna want to put on the table for us to vote for it.
Sorry, what?
The splash pad, correct?
Yeah.
That's gonna come on the 13th,
September.
yes.
Yeah.
So you want us to come to a workshop to tell you our questions?
No, she said send the questions in advance of the workshop.
And you'll have them at the
Spitball them,
workshop?
yeah.
Okay.
Obviously, we can do, because everybody may have duplicate, or I'll give you information that I have, and I've given you guys the perspective, so if we have additional questions. I'll let everybody know what your question is before the workshop, and then we can kind of spitball everything in the workshop.
So again, with all due respect, there will be answers to the questions at the workshop?
If you submit them before the workshop.
Well, I submitted them to you already.
Yeah.
So
But-
there'll be answers there.
But yeah, bring your questions back to the table at the workshop, and we can.
So that I won't get answers at the workshop.
Shoot her those questions again. ahead
I
of the
just
meeting.
did it, it hasn't been 24 hours, I'm not gonna shoot the questions.
Oh, well, if you already
Okay?
sent it 24 hours ago, then give her a chance to get the answers.
I will, but if I don't have any answers at the workshop, it makes no sense to me.
Well, right. So if you just sent it 24 hours ago, and she's saying she's gonna get the answers.
I already did respond, but let's bring those forward at the workshop, so everybody will know what
It
we
won't
said.
happen today.
Yeah, because there were some good questions. There were some good questions.
Okay. And then my last thing is the phone system. So at our fire committee, there was a question about the phones not working.
I will be on there tomorrow.
Okay, but can we come up with a process or a procedure when someone is absent? There has to be somebody that's going to step up and take that position
Position.
for whatever it is. So, for example.
Oh, we're doing cross-training in the office now. We're doing cross-training, so if somebody goes on vacation, we do have somebody with the knowledge to fill in that position. We're not going to cross-train anybody for a supervising position.
So what you're saying then is the phones have not been working for 2 months. Okay, longer than that, 2 months longer than that.
Yeah.
But because the person is on vacation, who handles the phones, we're going to wait for them to return?
If something like that comes up and they're not gone for, let's say, in excess of a month, there are some things that can wait for their return. But any emergency situation, the village administrator. I'm going to reach out to Verizon tomorrow, and we'll straighten that out.
Okay, sounds
Sounds good. Fire phones. I will do that tomorrow if my voice holds out.
You got anything, Brian?
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. I definitely want to address the elephant in the room that was brought up at the call from the floor. I can't speak for everybody else on council, but in no way, shape, or form did I agree to any gifting of, buying a village property and gifting it to another organization. I just learned about the other organization being interested in utilizing the property last week is when it was brought to my attention. My understanding is that it would be rented out just like any other community center would be. So not gifting it to anybody or anything like that. Just want to make that abundantly clear. Smart credits, that was also brought up from call from the floor. This is what we do every year when Richmond Lennox comes to us and asks for us to give them their credits. No different than before. And we always are able to still use Smart for our bus services and field trips and all that. So my understanding, that shouldn't impact them at all. Let's see. Smart credits with Lions Club. Wastewater, we can definitely look into that. See about that. Street committee, we had a vacancy with the street committee, I think it was.
Yeah, we have one.
So we asked Trustee Guerrero. Unfortunately, she's not here to actually speak for herself, but she did volunteer. She did volunteer like enough to be a member of that. So so she's going to be our third member, and then I believe we're also going to work with Marcus as the street administrator. So we're all working together on that. I think we also talked about wildlands or not. So it was going to be the 5 of us then for the street committee. So we can definitely, after the September, we can get something scheduled for that.
And as I get information from this asset management class about street funding, we'll pass the information on.
That's all I have. I just wanted to address the accusations.
Okay, call from the floor. In case anybody else wants to. I've been called from the table. I'm telling you guys, 3 medications put you in the loop. I'm telling you. Call from the table.
And Amanda shared with us about the students in the Smart Fund, which is awesome. But also, I don't know if you know this or not, Amanda, all the trips that the village uses, they use those smart buses.
I didn't know that was them, but
that's really
that's awesome too.
And by the way, thank you for forwarding that link to that webinar with Larry Welker. I appreciate that. That was some good information.
I'm glad somebody got to attend.
I did. So I'll call from the table. Do I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn 9:09.
All those in favor? Why don't we say hell yeah?